I'm Gary Hough and I live in Accrington in Lancashire. I've lived here for 8 years. We've recently been plagued with pests. By that I mean seagulls, flies. This is all coming from a local landfill site that comes under Lancashire County Council's control. The site operators, SWNS, basically fill in a new cell of landfill waste, and the waste comes from multiple different boroughs around Lancashire. What we've started to see is, probably since October last year, was a rise in the number of seagulls that were starting to come over the houses. The volumes of gulls has just become significant. I mean, it's just incredible. You know, if I was to say there was 2,000 to 3,000 gulls in the air at one time, especially when they're turning over the landfill site, at its peak, when you look up into the sky above our houses, you see thousands of seagulls. And the best way I can describe it is if you see one of those kind of like desert films where you see a plague of locusts that just comes swooping in, it's a sight to behold. It really is. The gulls themselves are bringing in a number of different problems. I mean, the first is bird poop, pooping on people's cars, they're pooping on people's homes and driveways, they're pooping on washing. You can't sit out in your garden because of the poop. They're dropping food waste. We've had chicken bones. One of the residents recently been a massive slab of meat which had hit the kitchen window and it was lying in the back garden. Now, obviously, residents have got children, you've got animals, and dropping this kind of waste is, you know, it's pretty distressing, as you can imagine. Well, it's affecting people in the community in a number of ways, really. The first is when the weather's good, as it has been recently, can't have barbecues, constantly having to wash their vehicles. We're coming into school holiday season now. You know, children playing out is affected. You know, some parents can't let the children out. They're worried about the impact of the gulls. They're worried about the gulls maybe coming down and starting to attack them. The children in the playgrounds with food waste, for example, or food in the hands. And you know, we have a landfill site that is being filled with attractive food waste. And for gulls, who are now nesting in the area as a result of this, and you know, and breeding in huge numbers, that food waste is accessible, and it's accessible because the site operators, SWNS, as far as we can see, whilst they're working to try and minimise the disruption on the residents, is what they tell us. You know, we can visually see that in the evenings in particular, those piles of food waste aren't being covered up. The birds are just feeding on it, and it's 7 days a week. We were told by SWNS, or I was told by SWNS, that they believe that it's because post-COVID, the gulls had come inland. Well, that's nonsense. It really is, because we've lived here, let's just say 8 years. We lived all through COVID. We didn't see any gull activity during COVID, or even, you know, immediately after it. It's only this last 8 months that we started to see this infestation gathering momentum. So I set up a community group on Facebook to try and coordinate and centralise everything, to get people, you know, not only aware of the situation, but to gather people's thoughts and views and videos and photographs to really give us some sort of, you know, evidence that we could go to SWNS and the Environment Agency and Lancashire County Council to, you know, to clearly demonstrate that this is having a massive impact. The campaign group that I set up on Facebook is called Tips Over the Edge, and within 4 weeks we went from 2 members to just over 650 and counting.